Hello viewers, well welcome to another automotive blog. It's been a busy week with the Forza 4 coverage, and of course this weekend was a massive weekend for motorsport. Unfortunately I don't have official pictures and screenshots to show you at the moment, but as soon as I can source some in the future I'll put those on a few blogs. But I thought it had to have a mention. Le Mans was incredible drama. The race is, well, it's on the limit now every lap all the way, and in a way it's always been like that, but on the other side, you know, cars have never been so reliable as they are now, and it's amazing seeing the new prototype class, you know, really pushing all the way through. I mean, last year, you know, Peugeot were dominant obviously until the end, but this year to see Audi come into it with their new fantastic looking car, and to have two terrible crashes. I mean, Alan McNish and Rockefeller, you know, they were dreadful accidents, and you know, we're glad everyone came out of it safely, because you know, you see something like that, you have your heart in your mouth for a moment. I can imagine it was a very stressful and emotional time for the team. So a great event in the end, and a hard fought and ultimately well deserved win. Then it was on to MotoGP, which was raced in pretty dreadful conditions. I mean, the rain was really coming down at Silverstone, and it was the first race I've seen that launches on the new grid now with the new pit paddock complex, and it works really well. In fact, the actual conditions were worse at the MotoGP for the start of the race than they were at the Formula 1. Of course, seeing Jorge Lorenzo spin out and Simoncelli again, very unlucky, but Casey Stoner coming home with a win. The race was pretty much over halfway through, really. It was just a case of staying on your bike and getting through it. So again, that opens up the championship again. No sign of Pedrosa yet. Where's he gone? Rumours that he may have another injury, so we'll wait and see. And of course, Cal Crutchlow, very unlucky not to compete in his British MotoGP. You know, it would have been great for him to be there, and the fans would have loved it, but man, that guy is sewn together with pins. I tell you, I don't know how these guys race, and you know, the bits and bobs he's had done to him this year, you know, good on him. He's hanging in there under real pressure, but a great rider. Cal, get well soon. And then it was on to the Formula 1. It's funny, Formula 1, isn't it? I mean, lots of people, I spoke to people about Formula 1 a few years ago, and they weren't the slightest bit interested, and now it's kind of the in thing since Jenson won his World Championship. In fact, some of you may have spotted my old Jenson car. I went to see Jenson testing at Formula 1 when he first ever came into it at Williams many years ago, and I said back then he'd be a world champion, and many people said to me, no, he's not quick enough. And right up to 2008, when he was driving the dreadful Honda, I was saying no, he's definitely going to be there, put him in a good car, and now he's proving his worth. He has a different driving style. His driving style is quite similar to this chap, Damon Hill. Very smooth driving style, but contains a lot of aggression, but it works well on the tyres, and he's a thinking guy, and it's developed as Jenson has gone through his career, much like Michael Schumacher, thinking, you know, what tyres is everyone else on, track condition, where strategies, it's all going through his head, and that's the mark of a champion, to cope with all that and still do a cracking drive. As for the incident with Lewis, I would actually just say it's a driving incident. Lewis, for me, went for a gap that wasn't there, and it's always up to the car behind to make that decision. And I feel on that decision he was bumping into people here, there and everywhere, and he probably should have been a bit more relaxed, needs to chill out. If he had stayed in the race, he'd have got there in the end. There's no doubt his speed, you know. Whether he's going to Red Bull or not is some debate at the moment. McLaren have him contracted until 2013, but does he want to stay? If he doesn't, could he swap with Mark Webber next year? Anything's possible. It's Formula 1. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you guys is I'll be running some interview coverage soon, and we can see here some of the interviews I've done with different people in motorsport over the years. I've never shown these interviews. Actually, last year I wrote a book, a 330-page book on motorsport, and I couldn't get a publisher for it. It's impossible for a normal writer to get a publisher. This is Steve Parrish here, commentator BBC Two, long-time biker himself, teammate of Barry Sheen. So I talked to him about his career and everything he's done over those years and his experiences and what makes biking different today. And it's a very insightful interview. There's so much to talk about there. Of course, Bradley Smith as well. This was done in the BRDC. The bar was closed. You know, goodness, what's going on there? Again, good to talk to him. If anyone saw the Moto2 race, they'll have seen Bradley come from 28th to 2nd. What a fantastic drive for him, ride should I say, in again, dreadful conditions. And it shows he's maturing as a rider as well. You know, he's developing his style all the time. He's somebody who hangs in there and tends to come through later in the race rather than sooner. but he's making that progress, and hopefully one day we'll see him step up to the top class. It would be nice though if the top class did have a few more bikes in it though. I would like to see a few more teams. And of course when I'm interviewing bikers, I couldn't go without interviewing Carl Fogarty. You know, what more is there to say about the man and his genius? I suppose the interview really was a lot about, you know, his life and how he got into biking and his passion for biking, and kind of where that passion has gone since, because since his accident he's taken a big sort of step away from it and he's gradually coming back to biking now. And I just wanted to find out more about the guy rather than just the race wins. We know what you've done, let's learn a bit about the character. And so these were really sort of great experiences talking to these guys, and I'm going to try and bring some of these videos to YouTube now. So the book may not get published because, as I say, as a writer you can write a book and people always say do it and you can find a publisher, but actually it's virtually impossible finding a publisher, or even finding someone willing to print news in the motor racing world. It's very, very tough trying to get in there. And Justin Reed here, he's a quad biker. I mean, wow, his skill was just immense. I kind of went from biking here and I crossed into dirt stuff, and it was just seeing him, what he was performing at tracks last year was absolutely fantastic. And I interviewed Beverly Barnes as well, who is another quad biker, and she's also working her way through the series at the moment, gaining experience. But it's a very risky sport, and many of you I'm sure will appreciate that. I mean, these guys really do have ultra skill to do what they do. Again, insightful in the sport and insightful in the career. Every one of these interviews asks, how did you get into it? Where did you get your first ride or first drive? Where did you get your sponsorship from? And then of course there's Craig Breen, Irish rally champion, and again he's talks a bit about different things, his favourite rally games and everything else. A stunning talent. He took me out for a spin around Silverstone in his Evo 9, heavily tuned of course. Wow, I have to say the speed in that, the brakes in it actually were the thing that really shocked me. It had a massive braking performance. Again, a great experience. Talking to him, getting his reflection on things, and he's still very early in his career, so he's got a lot to come to him, but will hopefully work his way up through the classes, and we'd like to see a bit more of him. Hopefully I'll show you a bit more of that as well. And of course into F1 now, Johnny Herbert, one of my racing heroes. Actually I have to admit, I was reading Lee Mackenzie's blog where she says, you can't look at them as kind of heroes because you meet them you might be disappointed, but actually, you know, I wasn't. Johnny Herbert's a really great guy. In fact, everyone I've met, from Sterling Moss, who's probably someone who, you know, doesn't take fools gladly. You need to know your sport if you're going to talk to him, to Johnny Herbert, to anyone else. If you know your sport and you love your motor racing, these guys will respond. So to me, yes, they're my racing heroes, but at the same time, you know, I appreciate the sport and the politics behind the sport as well. And I just wanted to find out Johnny's approach as well. Every driver has a different thing that's happened to them. You know, a bit of luck, a bit of sponsorship, a bit of help from the family. They call it smart luck. It's being in the right place at the right time. And that's something which I wanted to find out. There's no magic in there. You just have to work really hard in your racing and go from there. Meeting him, obviously, one of my sort of racing heroes, and it's always nice to talk to him. I could talk to him so much about Formula One. There's so much I'd like to do. So little time when you're meeting these guys. You know, you're always getting your 5 minutes and that's it, you're out the door again. And I think I even mentioned to him a couple of cheeky questions as well about when he got the first win for Stewart. Did that annoy Rubens Barrichello? I'm sure it did at the time. You know, Rubens actually at the time, if you were watching F1, was actually doing a better job that season than Johnny. And then Johnny comes through with a cheeky win because he changed onto the right tyres, when actually Rubens was usually the best guy in the rain. But Johnny's one of those guys, isn't he? He's come through with a few good wins in F1, and it's just the way the cards have fallen. But he's been doing the right thing at the right time. Now we look at someone you won't know. It's Sgt Tom Brown, or Lieutenant Tom Brown, and he's a dragster champion in the US in 1996 and 1999 and 2006, and he's got an immense story about motor racing, his love of cars, and also Beat the Heat campaign, a campaign to get street racing off the streets in America. And I think it's a really helpful campaign. I really do feel that more games publishers should support it, and they don't for whatever reason, because He's trying to get people off the streets, get them onto dragster tracks, and then he races them in his cop car. And he's got an immense car himself. You know, the stuff he's done in his career, the TV, the driving, a bodyguard to 5 presidents, he's done it all, and his story is absolutely immense. A long interview, but well worth listening to. Then we have Ken Block, of course. Where did Ken Block start his career? Where did he come from before we saw him on Top Gear? I just wanted to talk to him, and so when Dirt 2 came out, I had some time with Ken, talking to Ken about his whole career and what really sort of fired him up, and you know, his roots in rally, where it came from and why he wanted to get into rally. You know, all of that detail. You know, if you wanted to talk to Ken Block about his life, what would you talk about? And that's what I get given. I get given a minute or two to chat to him and find all that out. And it's always a great experience. And we had a really great interview, and I asked him a bit about Pikes Peak as well. Pikes Peak is always one that's interested me, just because of the incredible challenge if you watch it from top to bottom. It's an unusual one. It's not motor racing, but Gianluca Vialli, a great footballer, I had the chance to interview him. I thought, got to be done, about his whole career. And if you watch this, it will be on the Team VVV Games channel, probably the end of this week, so we'll be having that up as well. And again, he's done everything there is in football, but I thought, you know what, it's got to come in here, because he's one of the great guys that I've managed to interview over the last year. And in actual fact, his experience is actually not a million miles difference. It's, again, being in the right place at the right time, but having great passion for what you do. And a lot of family support as well. Nothing is without that. Sabine Schmitz, the German Top Gear presenter, master of the Nürburgring. She, again, a staggering driver in Nürburgring. Actually, looking at it, she could probably have been a Formula 1 racing driver. Her, you know, skill and physical fitness and everything when it comes to that. As I say, it was very hard to get into, and there are so many great drivers that don't get into F1. But she's clearly got incredible skill, and again, it was an insight into her career as well, how she's ended up where she is. But she's very happy doing what she's doing. As I say, if you've seen her on Top Gear, she beat Jeremy Clarkson driving a van, so some of you may remember that. Anthony Davidson, had to talk to him again, whole career. Where did it start? From karting to driving for Peugeot in Le Mans. Every detail. Anthony's a great guy, on and off camera, and it was a real pleasure to talk to him. He's happy to talk to you about every element of that career, because he knows there are so many racing fans that would just love to be in that position, you know. And it's an honour talking to him about it as well. For me, it's always a privilege meeting these guys and getting their input and finding out about a world that we just don't know about, and the good and the bad. And that's something that he talks about, you know, the money that controls sports like F1, and it's something even if you watch F1, you know, Eddie Jordan will talk about, you know, it's a hard business behind the scenes. You get results or you're out, and at the same time you bring money in or you're out. So F1's not just about being a good driver, it's about bringing in lots of money. Of course, now we're on to Tiff Needell, and of course besides Tiff, I interviewed Ben Collins as well. Tiff, great guy. He's one of my heroes from Top Gear, and just all-round great guy. I mean, he's just like in real life as he is on the show. It was a fantastic interview, and if the wind hadn't affected it so badly, it would have been one of the best interviews ever. But we have a whole transcript of that interview put together. Wow, so that's lots and lots of stuff, and I'll leave you here with a little bit of driving as well, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
That's more like drifting. You drive one way and then you flick the other, and you I can't understand why the tyres wear out myself.
You wipe them out before you get on in the car.
But here you're going 100 miles an hour. They're 100 miles an hour going Well, that's one of the bigger moves.
So that's been quite a journey over the last 18 months of VVV, and I hope to improve on that in the next 18 months. I hope you've all enjoyed our Forza coverage and everything else that we've run in that time. It really has been an epic amount of work for me on my own, but at the same time enjoyable and ultimately rewarding. We are looking for sponsors as well, so if you ever see what you like and you want to sponsor what we do and improve on that, that would be a massive help for us as well. And like I say, it's hard getting this stuff into automotive publications, so if you do like some of what I do, contact me. I'd love to get VVV or my comments out there anyway, and at least you know, get a bit more exposure for what we do here, because we've got some great stuff on the channel and we do want to get more of it out for more of you to see. But I'd like to thank all of you for watching the channel, and all of you who've added us on Twitter and Facebook and support the channel and advertise it and get it out there and let people know what we're doing, because it's you, the viewer, who's helping me do that and get it out there and get this coverage somewhere. I'd like to thank you all a great deal. So that's it for now. I'll see you all soon.